Welcome back to my annual Oscar series where I talk about all the Oscar categories except for the short film ones. I rank all the nominees per category according to who I think deserves to win, and then I make a prediction for who I think will win that Oscar. So right now we're going to be talking about the last technical category, and arguably the most important when it comes to filmmaking, and that is Best Film Editing. So the nominees here are Arrival, Joe Walker; Hacksaw Ridge, John Gilbert; Hell or High Water, Jake Roberts; La La Land, Tom Cross; and Moonlight, Nat Sanders and Joy McMillan. Now this is a great list of worthy nominees, and again, like with cinematography and like a lot of other awards, I find this one really tough to rank because, again, to me, it's not necessarily that one movie is better edited than another. It's really that different movies require different paces, different editing techniques in order for their stories to work. And I wouldn't say there are any real snubs in this category because there are just so many well-edited movies out there, even like smaller films that are kind of underappreciated, like, Sully. I know a lot of people like the editing there. But if there's one movie I really wanted to see on this list, it was OJ Made in America, because, at under 8 hours, I don't know how they made that film as exciting and as tense as it was, but I felt like it would have been great to see another documentary nominated for Best Film Editing. But anyway, in terms of who I think deserves to win this, at 5th place I'm going to give it to Hell or High Water. Hell or High Water has great editing, and I love that they split time equally among the three protagonists, arguably. So you slowly begin to realize how similar they all are to each other, because at first the film, kind of sets them up as being on three different sides of a triangle. But then as the film goes on, you begin to realize that the film is focusing on each of them equally, and their stories are one and the same. And of course, there is a lot of suspense in Hell or High Water, especially towards the end, and up to that point, it really goes by a very steady pace. However, the reason why Hell or High Water is at number 5 is that the only real flaw I have with Hell or High Water is with the editing. There are a few cuts here and there that just don't feel as smooth as they should be, like they kind of waited a bit too long or they cut a bit too abruptly. It's a very small thing, but that's why it's at number 5. Now at 4th place, I'm going to give it to Hacksaw Ridge. Hacksaw Ridge is just an endlessly watchable film, which is largely thanks to just how well it is paced and how well it's edited. The first half of the film really does move very quickly, even if there isn't any action going on in it yet, and the film as a whole does not feel as long as it really is. And when you get to that second half, the editing is absolutely relentless. You're on the edge of your seat. If you want to talk about tension and suspense, there's so much in that second half. And it's a really fast-paced second half, but it also manages to make certain moments feel long. Like you're there with the soldiers, and every second is an agonizing wait for the next attack or for something to happen. Now at 3rd place, I am going to give it to Arrival. And compared to Hell or High Water and Hacksaw Ridge, Arrival is definitely a slower paced film. However, this is one of those moments where the slower pace is necessary for the material, because these characters are trying to decipher an alien language, and it really is taking a long time, and you need to feel that length with them. I really hate it when people criticize movies for being too slow and whatnot, because most of the time it's not that the movies are too slow, it's that they're too impatient for things to happen, in my opinion. So for Arrival, like, that slow pace really works. It has its own suspenseful moments as well towards the end, but probably the best thing that Arrival does in terms of editing is that there are a lot of abrupt flashbacks throughout the film that at first seem weird and out of place. But as the movie begins to get into Luis's character, you understand completely why these flashbacks are happening, and they serve a really great narrative purpose. These edits really highlight certain things within the cuts themselves. It's the juxtaposition of two images for a reason, and the cuts really work to put that across. Once again, I had a really hard time putting these top 2 in order, but again, at 2nd place, I'm going to give it to Moonlight. The editing in Moonlight, I feel, is worthy of its nomination almost solely because of the way the story is structured. It's a 3-act structure, but as opposed to other films, the momentum really carries over from one act to the next. It doesn't feel like one ends and then you have to regain interest. It really feels like one cohesive story that's very clearly split into 3 distinct parts. And what I love that it does from the first act to the second act is that it shifts the point of view, arguably, from Mahershala Ali's character to the teenage Chiron. And every single shot in the movie feels just so meticulously placed, like it's there for a very precise reason. And of course, Moonlight has these very long takes that are not flashy, but they're meant to just kind of immerse you into the world of Chiron and really kind of make you feel like you're there with him, and kind of like the agony and the internal pressure he feels. The very opening shot of the film is just this one shot where it's kind of just circles around Mahershala Ali, and that really works in pulling you in. But perhaps the most impressive long take is towards the end, where it just does not want to cut, and it's just this long sort of conversation between Chiron and Kevin. And it really works because there's so much tension even if there's so little happening on screen. But at number one, in the film that I think deserves to win at this moment, best film editing, is La La Land. The structure of La La Land is also great because it's split into different seasons, you know, spring, summer, autumn, winter. But each chapter feels organic. Like, it doesn't feel like the movie goes to the next season just because they're like 1/4 of the way through the movie. Like, it really feels like they earn that change in season. There are lots of long takes as well in La La Land, especially in the choreographed musical sequences that are very, very impressive. But every single moment in La La Land really flows seamlessly into one another. And I love that this film really splits time between Mia and Sebastian, so it really gives the impression that we're seeing the movie from both of their points of view, which I think is instrumental in not making Sebastian come off as a jerk that much, and really just kind of telling their story simultaneously. And then of course you have the ending of the film, which really heavily relies on visual storytelling, and it really works. It again is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen on screen, that epilogue, and it's thanks to great editing that it's as effective as it is. In terms of who I think will win the Oscar, I think it's going to La La Land because it does have the flashiest editing among these nominees, and I don't think the Academy can ignore that. Alright, so those are my thoughts on Best Film Editing. What do you guys think of the nominees? Who do you think should win? Who do you think will win? Whatever you guys think, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.